guys, welcome back to my channel, Saved by the Cels. And today's video I'm actually really excited about. As most of you know from my previous video, I recently took the NCLEX a few weeks ago, and I wanted to share a couple of tips that worked for me. So I am not in any kind of shape or form like trying to push anything on anyone, or trying to promote any kind of program, or trying to say that this is going to work for you. It worked really well for me, and I was so excited about it, and I just felt that I should share it with everyone, and then hopefully it'll help somebody out. So I set these 4 tips that I have using the acronym P.A.S.S. And so I am super excited about sharing it, and I hope you find them helpful. Tip number 1 is plan. So I came up with a study plan prior to my first day that I had set to begin studying for the NCLEX. So I set up a study plan. I jotted down on a planner. I used a planner, and I jotted down how many questions a day I wanted to take, what my days were going to look like, even from like when I was going to study the rationales, when I was going to do X amount of questions, to when I was going to take breaks, to when I was going to have free days, because free days are the most important thing. Do not forget your free days, people. We all need a break. Don't overexert yourself. But anyway, side note, sorry. I'm probably going to go on a million side notes BTW, because I have all kinds of like thoughts and ideas like hanging out in my brain. And so the second tip is a subscription to UWORLD. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a subscription to UWORLD. It can just be, I guess, a subscription to any NCLEX prep course or program. Like I know there's Kaplan Hurst. Those are a couple of the ones that I'm familiar with. But I would strongly recommend a subscription to UWORLD. So my school actually, as a part of the program, we received 2 different NCLEX prep courses. So we received Kaplan and we received Hurst. So for both of them, we had somebody come in live and teach for like 2 to 3 days. And so, and then it also came with questions, like a test bank, a bank of questions for both Kaplan and Hurst. Now, I'm not going to say anything negative about either of them.
Liar, pants on fire.
I guess it's a little negative, but I guess to each their own. I mean, what works for some people doesn't work for others, and that's totally fine. But a couple of things about those 2 programs. So for example, I felt that Kaplan, the questions were a little dry and the rationales were just hard to understand. I felt like they were a little generalized. They weren't as specific. And UWORLD, on the other hand, is way more specific with their rationales. So that was one thing I didn't really appreciate about Kaplan. I did appreciate their decision tree. I found that was kind of helpful for me, but I just felt that UWORLD helped me a little bit more. The type of learner that I am, I felt UWORLD definitely helped me more than what I thought Kaplan did. And then for Hurst was also a great program. I strongly recommend it for content review. I just remember it being very specifically content. So I stuck to UWORLD, and I am glad that I stuck to UWORLD, because I absolutely loved their rationales. UWORLD rationales are a complete different ballgame. I don't know how else to describe it other than amazing. Especially for the type of learner, again, that I am. So their visuals, their photos or images that they had on their rationales were great. They were very colorful and just very helpful. And then they were more updated. I feel like other programs like Kaplan, have more like images that are a little bit outdated. So yeah, I really liked the way that these rationales were written. And so I also felt that the NCLEX is very similar to UWorld. The NCLEX setup, it was very similar to the setup of UWorld. The same colors, same type of questions, even the timer in the corner, everything. When I was sitting down for the NCLEX, I just remember thinking, like, I just feel like I am just doing a random exam on UWorld. So yeah, I definitely think that that was very helpful. Another thing about UWorld that I love, one of the many, because I have a lot, but I loved the fact that they give you an assessment. So my sister actually bought me my subscription to UWorld as a graduation present. I know, kind of, that was really sweet. But yeah, so she got me the 60-day plan, and I believe that that plan came with one assessment. And I'm not really sure how much it actually is. I know that I've heard that UWorld is kind of pricey, but because she got it for me as a gift, I didn't really look at the price, so I'm not really sure. I want to say maybe it was like 100 something, but I might be wrong. So the assessment that came with that, I thought it was an awesome thing. So I took the assessment like 5 days before taking the NCLEX. And I think I was more nervous to take this assessment than I was for the actual NCLEX, to be honest. But what this assessment does is that it kind of gauges, it measures your chances of passing the NCLEX. And so it'll give you, at the end of the 75 question exam, it'll give you in a little bar, it'll show like high chances of passing. It'll be like low chances of passing, borderline, very high, which I thought was really awesome because it is such a confidence booster. And so I'll explain a little bit of my story with that. About 6 days before I sat for the NCLEX, I decided to do one of the Kaplan trainer predictor exams. Now I had the Kaplan available to me because I still had the plan with my school. So I was just like, why not just another resource to take? And I don't remember the exact number, but I feel like it's the goal to see where you're at, like how ready you are to pass the NCLEX, is either 55 or 60. I want to say 60. I kind of remember the Kaplan lady saying something about that number, 60. So kind of stuck in my head, but I'm not really 100% sure. It doesn't matter anyway because I bombed that and I was nowhere near 55, 50, or 60. So I took it 6 days before and I sat down and it was 265 questions, and I even had to take breaks, but I was so mentally drained after this exam. I thought it was so hard. It was
draining. Oh my God,
it was awful. And so I looked at my score. It was 48. I scored a 48. And I looked at that and I was like, I'm taking the NCLEX in 6 days. I am at a 48 percentile. I'm not even close to that goal, the goal of, oh, you might pass. And so I remember I just shut down my laptop. I went and complained to my sister, and I was like, this is stupid. Like, what? I'm not even ready. I don't know. For a split second after taking that exam, I just had this thought in me, like, should I reschedule? Am I not ready? I don't know. So I was really bummed, and I didn't do anything the rest of that night. I just sat around watching TV. Then the next day, I was like, okay, I'm going to take the UWorld assessment, the predictor. And then I said, I'm just going to do it. I feel like I might as well just get it out of the way now and measure how I'm doing overall and then see if I do have to reschedule. I don't know. So I take this 75 question exam. I thought I was like doing poorly, and I was like halfway through it, I was just kind of like, this is not good. So I hit end or finish, and I got very high. And I remember I was just so excited, and then I said, oh, heck yeah, I am ready to take this freaking NCLEX, like right now, like tomorrow. Can I take it tomorrow? Because I was just on this high. It's just such a confidence booster. And a lot of people that had done UWorld before me, they told me that it's just a confidence booster and that I'd feel good about it. But I was just really nervous because I was like, what if it's not a confidence booster? What if it's the opposite? But no, luckily I got a very high chance of passing, and that was just like all I needed. That the rest of the next few days, I just felt like I was on top of the world. It was pretty awesome, and that also helped me a lot in getting like mentally prepared for the test date itself. So one last thing about UWorld, because I can go on and on and on. I can't help it. There's like all these great things about it. I have yet to see a YouTube video that's like saying negative things about UWorld, because I feel like it's all good. I mean, I might be wrong, but I love UWorld. Another thing that I absolutely loved was the fact that as you're going through these questions on UWorld, you are able to save flashcards of your notes or of the content that you maybe, if you got an answer incorrect, or if you answered incorrectly, you can save that onto a flashcard. You can save it with the pictures, the images, as the diagrams, anything that you want. You can save them on folders, flashcards. And then you can group those flashcards into groups, which is what I did. And so I kind of like labeled them like farm, I had med search, I had peds, I had cardiac, which is the worst for me at least. And I just started like filling them up. And when I had reached 1,000 questions, at that point, these folders are like full. They have so much information on them, rationales from all the questions that I got wrong. I created a binder, and that brings me to my third tip, which is study content. So that kind of is tied in with the UWorld, but not necessarily. I think that studying the content and focusing on the rationales is definitely something that helped me prepare for this NCLEX. I know that before I was like prepping, a lot of people told me of their experiences, and they told me do a lot of practice questions just to kind of get used to sitting there and answering these questions. It's all about like the way you answer. It's about the way you approach the question. It's questions, like just practice the questions. And I just remember thinking like, that doesn't, I mean, personally for me, that does not work. I can never do just practice questions and then just expect myself to ace these exams. I know that back in nursing school, our school, we had to take HESIs. And I remember for a lot of the HESIs, my friends would be like, oh, I just did practice questions all night. I've been doing practice questions all week. This is what I did. I've been doing practice questions. And I would always get kind of frustrated because I'd be like, how come I can't do that? Why can't I just practice questions and then get like A's on these exams? But no, I needed to study the content for those HESIs. And so I needed to focus on rationales. I knew going into preparing for the NCLEX that if I wanted to actually get the most out of this program and the most out of prepping for the NCLEX, I needed to focus on the rationales and focus on the content. And I was so excited because my NCLEX exam was literally content. I kid you not. 90% of my NCLEX exam was content-based, and like 10% was something else. But yes, so I really do think that content is just so important to study, which brings me to my binder. This is my UWORLD binder. So, like I said, I got to 1,000 questions and then I started writing down all of my rationales. Up to that point, I had hundreds of rationales that I needed to review and write down. But I wanted to stop at like the halfway mark. That way it wouldn't be too overwhelming. So I wrote them all down on this binder, and this like literally was my Bible. I split them up using tabs. So for example, this one says farm, and I just wrote down all these rationales, all these meds. For the farm one, I did meds. So these are all meds, definitions, or any like little tricks or any mnemonics or anything like that I had, any exciting stuff. And then nursing interventions for the meds and all like psych meds and just all that stuff.
So I did the same thing with the med search section. And then I did procedures, which there were a lot of them on UWorld to study. Nursing interventions for those, and then just kind of like, and then OB, peds, and then also obviously the lovely lab values, which was like, yeah.
It was a lot. I know that it was a lot, but while I was doing it, I felt so miserable. I was so tired, but yes, it was just not fun. It was a lot of work. But after I was done and I was reviewing all of these rationales, I just kept thanking myself for doing this because they stuck in my brain and I just felt like they were extremely helpful. So yes, study the content, people. And finally, the fourth tip is my personal favorite, self-care. So most people who take the NCLEX will probably recommend doing like a self-care day before going in to do the NCLEX. And I absolutely agree with that. I think it's very important. I totally did a whole full day of self-care, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in my other video leading up to the NCLEX. But I personally did self-care weeks before. Like I started doing self-care weeks before. I started doing a lot of things that people had recommended. So for example, my friend recommended the Insight timer, and then my sister had told me about the Calm app. So I downloaded both of those a couple of weeks before the NCLEX, and then I just kind of got into the mode of doing a few minutes a day or right before going to bed, doing some meditation, listening to some meditation and relaxation audio tapes, and I found it to be so helpful in just kind of preparing me mentally and emotionally, and just kind of taming that anxiety that I already felt that was building up even way before I graduated nursing school. I can just already feel it building up. And so I wanted to make sure that the anxiety and the nerves were not going to be what got in the way of my exam and me passing that exam. So I wanted to be as prepared as possible. So I was reaching out to my friends and I was like, what helps you relax? What helps you stay positive? Like blah, blah, blah. And I just kind of wanted to surround myself by this like energy of positivity. And I just wanted to be less anxious and calm my nerves, because I struggle with anxiety. I do struggle with that. And so I just knew that if I wanted to stand up to this beast of an NCLEX, I needed to tame that anxiety. Like,
Sit down, I'm the boss.
Not right now, not ever. Not today.
I did that, and I found it to be very, very helpful, and I felt really relaxed and I felt centered, which I feel is the most important thing going into this exam. So I would say just find something that makes you feel positive and just happy and centered, and just relax, because it makes a difference. And finally, I would say for me personally, what helped me a lot was prayer. And I am a firm believer that God does things with purpose. And I know that praying helped me feel so much more at ease, and also helped me calm my nerves. And I did a lot of meditation, prayer, and then just relaxation techniques, and just kind of surrounded myself with positivity and really tried to do things that made me feel at peace. And I think that's all. I hope that you found these tips to be helpful, and I want you to remember that everything is going to be okay. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and please, if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe below and hit the like button and share this video. Thanks, guys.